I'd like to start off by asking you guys a question. Raise your hands if you have ever wore something a step out of your comfort zone. Alright, well, chances are you probably got some compliments, and maybe even a few negative comments. I'm willing to bet you, though, that the negative comments stuck with you the most. Whenever we step out of our comfort zone, we are extremely vulnerable to the feedback that we get when we're out there. It's like dipping your toe in a cold sea when you're on the edge of the beach. But when you're swarmed by a big and cold wave, when all you wanted to do was test the waters by dipping your toe, you probably wouldn't try dipping your toe in the water again for a while, would you? Now, this is similar to how humans act when they receive a negative comment doing something out of their comfort zone. When humans receive a negative and blunt comment doing something out of their comfort zone, they don't want to do it again because they're afraid they'll be humiliated or hurt again. Even if they receive a ton of positive comments, we'll most likely remember the negative comments which hurt us, because that's how we remember our experiences. Now, I'd like to ask you guys another question. Raise your hands if you have ever been in a long lineup at a grocery store, and you look at the magazines at the side and see headlines that either criticize or question a celebrity, or give you advice or tips on things that you should not do. Alright. Well, when pop culture and society constantly publish things on the internet, TV, or any other media outlet regarding criticism of another person, or telling you things that you should not do, it makes people afraid because of all the negative and judgmental comments circulating in the media. They get afraid to step out of their comfort zone because they're afraid that they'll get judged like this too. Now, let's look at first impressions. First impressions are really important because we get a lot of information from someone just by first impressions. But when we really look at someone as a first impression, what do we see? The good things? What's the bad things about somebody? Most of the time, it's the bad things. Here's an example. Let's say you're on the bus and a girl gets on who's been breaking out recently, has acne on her face. Most people on the bus are going to think to themselves, wow, that girl has acne all over her face. Dang, that's really unattractive. Instead of something like, wow, that girl that just got on, she has a really pretty face, and I bet you it would be a lot more prettier once the acne cleared up. Now, the problem with this mindset is that it causes people to believe that their first impression that they make to someone else is going to be negative, and that people are going to judge them based on their insecurities instead of the positive things about them. Needless to say, lots of people in this world suffer from low self-confidence. But to be honest, low self-confidence and comfort zone, what can we find between there? Well, people who suffer from low self-confidence are also afraid to step out of their comfort zones. Let's look at it. If you truly believe that you could do something out of your comfort zone, enjoy it, and maybe even learn from it, would you still say that you have very little self-confidence? I would say no. But people are scared because they don't focus on the positive things that they might experience or learn. They focus on what happens if they mess up, fail, and the consequences that come with it. We have to remember that everybody fails, and it's impossible to succeed all the time. But failure, it's a great way to learn how to deal with problems in the future. As the famous Wayne Gretzky said, you miss 100% of the shots that you don't take. But when people are too afraid to take these shots, to fail, they're not going to learn. With how we see the negative traits of others first during first impressions, and how we remember the hurtful comments we receive instead of the positive ones when we do something out of our comfort zone, we get this vibe that this space outside of our comfort zone is a place where we get humiliated and hurt. To be honest with you, sometimes that is the case, but oftentimes it's not. It's a wonderful place where you can see the many wonders of the world that you can't find in your tiny little cave that you call your comfort zone. Also, you can learn a lot about yourself and your strengths and weaknesses. Now, people who suffer from low self-confidence will most likely also have self-image problems. Because when people see Photoshop models in unnatural poses that are meant to be extremely appealing to the human eye, and then compared to themselves in their average everyday life, of course they'll feel that they're ugly when they're really not. With sex appeal being a big and rising factor in advertisements, TV shows, or movies, the standard of appearance rises, And we see in everyday media people who do not accurately portray the look of an average person we would see in our everyday lives. Also, we as humans have a natural crave for attention because it makes us feel that we're special and that we mean something. But when the easiest and most efficient way to get attention is through appearance, we have a minority of very attractive people that get a lot of attention, which is sometimes unwanted attention, while the majority of people who are average looking are overshadowed, can feel worthless because they get very little attention. Now, there is a pretty simple way for a person to become more self-confident in how they act and how they look, and it begins with how you treat yourself. A lot of us have the habit of guilting and shaming ourselves whenever we do something wrong. What this does is that not only does it cause the person to be afraid of what others think of them, they're afraid of how they think of themselves. Instead of getting in this habit of guilting or shaming ourselves, we need to get in the habit of loving ourselves. And by that, I don't mean the selfish and egoistical form of self-love. I mean the self-love where you can look at all your insecurities in the face, remember all the times where you failed, and still treat yourself well and love yourself well anyways. The self-love that tells you that you're still beautiful despite what all the other people say. The self-love that tells you when you're depressed and down that you will get better. And the self-love that'll give you faith that you can do better because deep down, you know you can. But the problem is, once people don't realize that they love themselves, but once they start, they'll begin to have faith and belief in themselves. Having faith and belief in yourself. That sounds really familiar, huh? That's self-confidence. Because when you wholeheartedly believe that you can overcome whatever obstacle that comes by in your life, you won't be afraid of them anymore. Because why would stepping out of your comfort zone be scary if you know that the negative comments that you receive aren't even going to be true? The beauty of self-love is that no matter what happens, there will always be a person who will love you and stand by your side. Now, what is self-love? I define self-love as the act of ensuring one's own happiness by having the ability to lift his or her own spirits without the help of others. Self-love can be shown in numerous ways, whether that be telling yourself that you look good today, or treating yourself to something special because you did something nice. It doesn't have to be big, but the key is consistency, because that's how habits are formed. Once you have these positive and healthy habits, your life will be filled with these positive energies that will not only be noticeable by you, but by others as well. Now, how do we begin this process of building these healthy habits? Well, again, we have to start small. Something simple like waking up every morning with a smile is good enough, because eventually you'll get into these habits of giving yourself these moments of self-love throughout the day and start to develop a positive mindset. Having a positive mindset is one of the best things a person can have. It'll keep you motivated, happy, and give you the courage to do things outside of your comfort zone. Once you have these healthy and positive habits and a good mindset, it's up to you to decide where you go from there. The great thing about self-love is that there's never an end state. There's always the potential for a person to become more and more loving of him or herself and to become a better person. Now, before I end my talk, I'd like you all to remember that self-confidence, self-image, and self-love, they all begin with self. It's up to you to keep yourself motivated. It's up to you to discipline yourself to get into these healthy habits. Thank you.